Statement of adequate notice. The public meeting of the Henry Hudson Regional School District Board of Education is called to order. Adequate notice of this meeting was published in the Asbury Park Press and the Star Ledger in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PI 1975, C231, and notices were forwarded to board members and were posted as required. Roll call.
Ms. Campbell? Present. Mrs. Duff? Here. Ms. Jacobs? Here. Mrs. King-Wells? Here. Ms. Knox? Here. Mr. Kruger? Ms. Messina? Here. Ms. Stock? Here. Mr. Weinberger?
Here.
Dr. Beams? Here. Mr. Bush?
Here. So this is officially the first meeting, so there's no old business, any reports. There's no student representative report, but Dr. Beams, you have something to share?
So our student representative, Julianne Wordman, who is a senior at Henry Hudson, will start with us in September, and so it is required by boards of education that have high school to have a student representative to the Board of Education so that they can be a part of the process. She will also get information from all three of the schools and report out to the Board of Education from like a student's perspective on what's going on in the school district. So that's really, really exciting. Also really exciting, as I have referenced in multiple meetings, once we became a unified board and we were down to just the one board meeting, that we would begin videotaping our board meetings. So I want to thank John Sergio, who's here tonight, from our digital media class, who is here to videotape. He will be assisting Mr. Boylan, who couldn't be here tonight, in videotaping our meetings. They are not live streamed, they are just recorded, and then they will be posted to the district's YouTube account, and then the link will be on the website under the Board of Education meeting and agendas. There'll be a link to all of the meetings that are recorded from this point on. So that's very exciting as well. Summertime, it is the busiest time of year in a school. Our work does not stop, so we've been doing a lot of summer work and planning. Our ESY program and all of our summer camps at our schools are in full swing, and that's really, really exciting. It's nice. You take a little break, and then you have students back in the building, so that's always very, very exciting. And our ESY students have been working really hard. We also have a lot of summer facilities projects, so if you've been in Highlands Elementary School, it looks like a war zone right now because we're ripping things out to do the air conditioning project. We have HVAC projects happening. So there's a lot of work going on in all three buildings right now over the summer. It's a good time to do that as well. So that's, it's a really, really busy time. I just want to give an update regarding the lower field. So as you guys know, we had a sinkhole in the lower field. So our fields were built on an army village at one point, and so there were a lot of structures that were basically covered when they put the fields in. So there was a basement that I guess had a door, and after 40, 50, 60 years or so, the door rotted. So all of the soil then went into what was once a basement, causing a giant sinkhole in the middle of the lower field. So we have a couple updates regarding the lower field. Number one is that the soccer season, so our baseball season was at Mater Dei because the sinkhole formed, I think, in March or April. So we had to do a lot of geoscans to see if there are other areas. Right now we think that that is where it is contained to. So we had to do a lot of scans. So we are going to have to excavate the actual, dig out the basement and then resurface the field. So obviously soccer season is impacted because that's our soccer field. So soccer will actually be played at Kunkel Park. It's in Leonardo. The Middletown Recreation Program is allowing us to use the fields for free, which is awesome, that we don't have to pay for the fields. We are working on transportation for after school to get the kids to Kunkel Park. We just have to bring our goals over. So they don't supply the goals. So Mr. Spano and Mr. Pritchard are going to work on bringing our goals over there. And in the meantime, we're going to start to remediate the fields. So the fields have years and years of kind of band-aids that actually cause larger problems than fixing them. So on that lower field in particular, they dug out what the infield of the baseball field, they dug it out too far. So if anybody's ever seen a soccer game, you play on grass, then there's a giant dip down and you play on the infield, and that infield at some point was expanded, so it's larger than an infield needs to be, and there's a pretty significant lip that we try to deal with. So when we excavate this, we are going to remediate anything that we need to, and then we are looking at possible solutions to sod and to reconfigure the baseball field so that that infield is not as large as an area as it is. We do have to resod everything and let that grass grow. And then we are looking at possible solutions for long-term solutions because we do have significant drainage issues. There's some erosion issues on the field. So we've had architects come out from Spiesel and the Sports Specialty Group to come out and take scans. They've given us some plans. It is expensive, so we are looking at that, and we're looking at any costs involved in that, but we don't want to just keep putting Band-Aids on the field and then constantly throwing money at it. So the first piece is to excavate it, get that basement out of it, remedy that, and then resurface that field, fix the infield issue that we have, and then look at a larger project for the upper field, possibly. So, but we are taking care of that, and like I said, soccer is going to be moved to Kunkel Park on their grass field, and we are very grateful to Middletown Recreation for not charging us for it. So middle school is always at Kazuki. So that doesn't impact, it just impacts our high school boys team. Middle school will stay. Middle school can play on a smaller field, so there's regulations in terms of the size of the field for high school under NJSIAA. Middle school can actually play on a smaller field, so that's why they predominantly play there. If they ever had to use the varsity field, then they would play there, but all their practices, their games and everything will be at camp. Yes. So regionalization occurred on July 1st, and we have been plugging along in terms of all of the work that we have to do to transfer everything from one district into the new district. It's not hard, it's just a lot, and it's a lot of different agencies and making sure that we have everything correct. There's a lot of reporting that still has to be closed out of the old districts while you open up the new district, so we are working within multiple platforms right now. It's very complicated, but we are moving along with everything. We have finally transferred personnel, financials, everything over to the new district from Highlands and Atlantic Highlands, and so Janet and her staff have been working nonstop to make sure that it's been seamless in terms of our payrolls and everything like that. Our employees are not affected, so that's been really, really great, and we've been able to complete that work. There's still quite a bit of work to do. It is very cumbersome, but we are doing it, and it's on schedule, so that's good. In terms of, I just want to address some of the rumblings that have been out there about preschool, and so people understand how the funding and this process works. I'm going to reiterate it so that it clears up some pieces. So Highlands has had a PEA grant for about 8 to 9 years. So they were a separate grant recipient for about 8 to 9 years. Atlantic Highlands didn't qualify for the grant for many, many years, so they did not have that grant. In advance of regionalization, what the Department of Education asked us to do was apply for a 2023-2024 grant for Atlantic Highlands Elementary School. So they were a grant recipient, so they were already in the program, so that when we merged the two districts together, we already had data on that preschool, and then it would be merged with the preschool that we have from Highlands Elementary School. We were given the grant award for the 23-24 school year for Atlantic Highlands in April. So we got a full grant award, but we didn't get it until April. So that's the way the preschool grant works. Preschool is not regulated, and it is not required for general education students. We are only required by law to service children with special needs in terms of preschool, because it is funded differently in the state of New Jersey. So in order to have a more regulated preschool program, you have to qualify for the PEA grant. But because there are no requirements for preschool, there are school districts that could be granted an award in December or January. And then you just start preschool whenever you can get your program up and running. So we received that money in April. At the same time, we received then a 24-25 grant for the entire district, based on the number of students that were currently in the Atlantic Highlands program and that were currently in the Highlands program, even though we projected more. So what we had to do first was we applied based on those numbers for 24-25. We were only approved for 4 classrooms with the 24-25 money. So 2 classrooms in Highlands and 2 classrooms in Atlantic Highlands that could service 60 students that were our students that required inclusion services. Those were the ones with special needs, and then our general education students. We had a significant amount of carryover money from the 2023-2024 grant because we got it in April and obviously couldn't expend it all because it wasn't a full school year. We had to reapply with an amendment for the use of that carryover money to open a 3rd classroom. You are not permitted to open a 3rd classroom until that amendment is approved. So that amendment opened up on May 1st. We submitted our application for the amendment on May 9th. And we have been emailing the DOE ever since then to get them to approve it. Until they approve that classroom, we cannot give the students from Atlantic Highlands only, who are placed on a wait list, we cannot offer them a spot until that classroom is approved. Once that classroom is approved, then we can open up the 5th classroom. But right now, we are not permitted to do that because we have not been approved to utilize that carryover money. It's the way that the grant works, and we are at the mercy of the state right now. I emailed again today. I emailed Jen Alphonse pretty regularly, and she still has no update for me. So as soon as we get word from them, we will then open up that classroom. That'll allow us to serve 74 students total between Highlands and Atlantic Highlands. So that's our preschool update, and as soon as I have more information from them, I will pass it along. And then finally tonight, we will be discussing, we have a possible MOA for negotiations. Our negotiations committee has worked really, really hard, as has the team from the teachers' side. I have to say, this was lovely in terms of this process. We didn't start until mid-February in terms of negotiations, to have been able to bring together 3 distinct associations and then 3 different contracts and 3 different guides, and get things done the way that we did and so swiftly. It was really, really great. So tonight we'll go into executive session, and then when we come out, I will ask for the board to vote on the memorandum of agreement with the association. So that's my report.
Thank you. I did not have any board presence before. I just want to welcome everyone to the first official meeting. Thank you very much for showing up. It's nice to see a larger audience than we historically had in some of our board meetings. Usually it's just airing, so thank you very much. There are no board committee reports, and there's no principals report. So there's also no recognition and awards. We'll now go to public comment. Agenda items only. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to say that there's an addendum tonight that you'll see when I hand them out for Kristen. Sorry. And she was the person that worked in Highlands set them as needed, and then she'll submit it. Dr. Dean covered it.
Thanks, Jen. Now on to public comments, agenda items only. Time will be allocated for public comment at this meeting. After being recognized by the presiding officer, each speaker may be allotted 3 minutes to address the board. Please state your name and address for the record. Muriel? Wait, I don't know if that one's on, sorry.
First of all, welcome, congratulations. Good luck in your terms on the board, and nice to see the two towns working together at any rate. I think that's a great thing. And secondly, I just want to, this is certainly not a criticism of the administrator. She does a terrific job, and she's just absolutely great at answering any questions anytime I ask her. She's really quick on doing it, as is Dr. Beams, by the way. I have to thank her for that too. I just don't understand the agenda all the time. My thing is the agenda made up and then it's a regular agenda and then you just use the things that you want, or is it agenda made up specifically for each meeting? And the reason why I ask that is because under this report it says, not applicable if applicable. You know if something is going to be applicable before you make up the agenda, I would think. So I wonder why it's on there.
They leave them on there and then there's just no report for that.
Okay, so you just say that they're there, but they don't have any report. Okay. And it's the same with the executive session. At one point you say that action will be taken after the executive session, and another section you say it won't.
So that's if you have an executive session that needs to be discussed and then acted upon. Sometimes it's just a discussion with no action.
And that's not a legal requirement either, Ms. Smith. The way it works with the Open Public Meetings Act is you're supposed to announce when you put your public notice out if action will be taken. Sometimes we say action may be taken because we don't know when we do the notice. Sometimes we say action won't be taken, there will be no action. But with respect to the public, it's just a respectful term. It's not a legal term. What we do is sometimes say action will be taken so that, people like you or others who may want to wait around after we're done can know that action may be taken. If we're just going to have a conversation and we know that no action will be taken, we usually try to tell you so you're not wasting your time or you go out to dinner or something.
Right, but on the agenda, and that I understand and that I appreciate, but on the agenda, sometimes it says action will be taken, and on that same agenda, it'll say no action will be taken. So, okay.
Yeah, tonight there are two separate closed sessions. One of them, we believe action will be taken afterward, and the other one, we believe action won't be taken. We just need to have a discussion. That's required to be held in executive session.
Okay. The student report, you have a monthly student report, which is terrific, but there's no end of the year student report?
We did one in June for the Henry Hudson. We did one in June, so it's actually a student representative.
Right.
They are only here September through June, so they just don't come to the summer meetings.
I understand that.
So Henry Hudson, the 7th through 12th board, they've always had a student representative, and she did her final report in June.
Okay.
So then our new representative, it's always a senior, our new representative will start in September, and then she will deliver her reports from September through June.
Gotcha.
Yep.
It's just that the board meeting was before the end of the school year. That's the only reason why I questioned that. Okay, and then in your report, Doctor, it says that there were no fire drills in Oleva Town School during May. Is there a reason for that?
We reported May's fire drills at the June board meeting.
Well, the report that you have here lists fire drills, and it lists them for Henry Hudson and for Highlands, and it says June 00 for.
Oh, that might be a typo. I will have to correct that. I'll get the correct dates of those fire. Those are the June fire drills.
Were there drills in the?
Yes, they have. You have to submit them to the state.
Okay. Thank you kindly. I applaud the fact that you had, first of all, a student who's doing your work because you have the talent here, so it's great to use the talent, and I admire that. Again, I would ask you, though, if you couldn't consider putting the meetings virtual, because your meeting is held in a room that's very, very difficult to hear you, although you've gotten better. But it's still very difficult to hear in here. And you're at the furthest part for anybody to attend of the 3 schools. To have your meetings up here is the most distant for everybody to attend, most everybody to attend. So having your meetings virtually would give other people the opportunity to ask questions at a meeting, to hear a meeting what's going on, and to be able to participate in the meeting. But this is a good first step, and I hope that you'll consider even more after this. Thank you kindly, and congratulations again. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Meryl Christie, and I submitted a request, and I just didn't see it on the agenda, so.
So we have to go into executive session to discuss it, and then the board will decide how to handle that as we come out, and then if they take action, it'll be an additional motion.
Okay, but that will be done today, right?
Yeah. And we're going into executive session right after this public comment.
Great.
Right. If the board decides to move forward, then there would be an additional motion.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My question is regarding the new hires. Can you hear me? Not everybody.
Name and address.
Okay. My question is regarding the
Can
new.
you say your name and address for Jen?
I'm so sorry. Rachel Stockton, 31 Grants Wharf. Regarding the new hires for the school district, would you be able to designate which buildings they will be working in? Is that possible? Or, I know some of them are elementary, what grade levels, or what buildings they will be working in? You know, when you, just as the meeting progresses, is that possible?
We can, now that they're not separated out, yeah, we can.
Okay. I was trying to figure out that.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Mark?
Mark Fisher, 91 3rd Avenue. I have a couple questions. On tonight's agenda, we have 5 instances where the board is going to vote on items that already happened. I don't understand how we can approve. For instance, the approval to administer the SAT and PSET test that started yesterday. On page 9, we have 2 instances to approve teachers for the summer STEAM learning. That started on July 8th. We have another one for the ESY program. I don't know what that is. That started on July 11th. And there's 2 others, I'm sorry, on page 9. The other 2 are on page 11. Another one started on the 8th, and the other one started on July 1st. So I guess my question is, why weren't these approved at the June meeting?
Because sometimes there's just changes to staffing that happen after the meeting, and so we may need to fill that position, or we may get approval for something later on and it doesn't meet the June meeting, and then we have to do it. So you still can approve it because it's within the budget, and we have to approve those people to get paid, but we don't have a meeting every single week, so something could happen to someone and all of a sudden they can't do something for ESY, and so we know that we've already secured that person, but we don't have another board meeting in order to ratify or to secure their approval. So that happens all the time because of the infrequency of meetings. So our last meeting was June 10th, 11th, and 12th at the other boards, and now we're meeting again July 17th. A ton happens in between, and so sometimes you might ratify something, sometimes there might be an error, and then you catch it because you might need more hours for something. Some of these are actually for the upcoming school year because we administer the PSAT and SAT here during the school year. So that's what's being approved, not that so we'll do the PSAT and SAT at a date that we choose, so our students are doing it in school. They don't have to go to another testing center.
Okay, just seemed like 5 items was kind of a lot. On page 5, item G, there's an approval for emergency virtual and remote instruction programs to approve that. But if you go to the next page under policy, the second item down, 0164-6, there's remote public board meetings during a declared emergency like COVID, where that procedure was abolished. So on one page we're approving instruction virtually if need be, but when it comes to meetings, it seems like we're not going to have that capability.
So there are two different things. During COVID, there was an emergency act for all governing bodies that they could conduct their meetings remotely. People did not have to gather. That has nothing to do with the other plan. The other plan is, should we ever have another global pandemic where the Department of Health shuts down schools, under Chapter 27, school districts have to update every year what their plan would be to provide virtual instruction to students. What is in the policy, what's being abolished because that regulation or that doesn't exist anymore because we're not in COVID, is the ability for this Board of Education to meet remotely. That has nothing to do with the instruction for students because that's regulated by something else. So this is for public bodies to be able to hold remote meetings. So that is something that's dictated by the state, and then they tell us when to abolish it because we're not allowed to do that anymore. The virtual instruction plan is specifically for students, and it has all of the guidelines that we would have to follow if we ever had to shut down schools again and provide virtual instruction. So if we ever had a global pandemic like we did, schools, the first time around, we had no notice. Schools couldn't prepare for this. So what this does now is you just have a perpetual plan for if we ever had to do that again, we have a plan in place. They're two totally different things.
Okay, so maybe I just heard you wrong, but are you saying right now the state doesn't allow a Board of Education to have a remote meeting, like a Zoom conference type meeting? This meeting would not be able to be Zoom conference?
Yeah, there are various complexities that some of the temporary requirements that went into place during the pandemic don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
There are ways to sometimes remove members in, but it's more like it was before the pandemic.
Okay. On page 7, Roman numeral 17, I see two things. Approval for July's bills, one amount, $268,000. Underneath that, item B, there's 3 separate amounts. Is that the last time we're going to see 3 separate schools on one line item? Because now it's all.
Yes.
Yes, okay, good, thank you. A question about insurance. You're renewing a lot of plans here, and this is on page 8, item O. The first one is an error omissions, part of the package, the over $26,000. It doesn't say what school it's for. But right underneath, there's also an extension of Atlantic Highlands, errors and omissions for another almost $10,000, and an extension of Highlands error and omissions for almost another $6,000. So all total, that would be $42,000 for errors and omissions insurance, but it seems like maybe it's redundant Or is it 26,000 just
The
for
first
Henry
one
Hudson?
is for the combined 3 schools going forward from July 1st. The other 2 are to extend last year's aeronautical missions for 1 more year, with the hopes that it's not needed, but if something was to come up, they will not cover under the new policy what if some aeronautical mission came up from the old school district. So it's a precaution to carry them forward. They will carry them in Hudson because this is Henry Hudson going forward, but the 2 grade schools, the recommendation was to carry for 1 year, to buy 1 more year of those schools, but it has to have, something has to have happened before June 3rd.
And then my other question is the $4,000 disparity between Atlantic Highlands at 9,700 and Highlands at 5,700.
Just the difference in quotes that those 2 schools had to begin with, that's not the difference. How many claims you have filed.
Okay. And that's it, thank you.
Go for it.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Scotto, and I'm 79 Third Avenue, so please don't think my house or my home school. So my daughter was waitlisted. She's one of the ones. I know I've been in contact with a few people. I have just one comment and a few questions. In terms of the selection, I think that it was very delayed for the parents to know that it was first come, first serve. I went to the parent meeting when we were introducing the preschool program, and I did see it, you know, as one of the last items of what to know in terms of it. But as a family that both parents are working, my husband travels, I'm a teacher myself, you know, finding out last minute, as you guys know, like there's no subs. So I'm not going to be leaving my special needs students when it was a battle that I had to choose. Unfortunately, my daughter was the losing one in terms of me submitting things during my lunch. So my only request for next year would be to possibly make it the lottery system, which is I know it has been in the past. That's my only thoughts. I'm not telling you what to do, but you know, I know there's other working parents that travel, and I think that, you know, I'm happy that the students who deserve it, those low-income families, I 100% agree they need to be there before myself. But at the same time, as a working parent, working multiple jobs, I feel that it was just a little unfair.
Our preschool program, the parent lead was first come, first serve. We haven't had a lottery system, which is why we continued the first come, first serve. So prior to me getting here, and then for the last couple of years, it has been a first come, first serve. I mean, we have parents that like line up before school even starts to drop off their
If I had
application.
before like 48 hours, I would have done so. But
I mean, we could take it into consideration. The lottery is a little bit more complicated because of some of the parameters, but we just continued with first come, first serve.
Yeah, just make it a little bit more fair for everybody who does have to work. So now I heard that, I did hear you in terms of the 3rd classroom. Will it be in Atlantic Highlands or Highlands?
Yes. So there's 3 classrooms. The classroom that we applied for is in Atlantic Highlands. The 2 will remain in Highlands, and then 3, what we've requested is a 3rd one in Atlantic Highlands.
Okay, so let's say it's approved in November, how long will it take?
Well, I mean, we're planning for it to be approved way
Well,
before
I'm just
November.
trying to be even a little bit realistic here.
So, I mean, it won't be, we're like ready for it. The last piece of it is just making sure that we hire a teacher, like we know where it's going to be, we've spec'd it out, like we're ready.
Right.
They just have to give us the official approval, and then we're ready. So they know, I mean, I'm like breathing down their necks with this, so I don't know what the delay is. We've answered, like we've done everything that they've asked us to, but we are ready. So
Do you think, like, when it gets approved, a month, 2 months for it to
I mean, like if it gets approved soon, we'll be, hopefully everybody will just be coming in September. Like that's our hope.
Right.
But like we're ready for we're ready fully, so we don't need to do anything but just, I mean, we've even started to anticipate and interview teachers
we just can't offer positions until we have the.
Are you asking how long you'll know after the email?
Well, it's like that, and then I also know, like, if you need to buy the supplies.
Oh, no. We're ready to go.
Mhm.
It's just opening this classroom.
Right, I mean, I would like to know also that, like, how long would it, if
I mean, as
parents
soon as I'm literally stalking them, we have a letter ready to go. I mean, we're ready. As soon as we get that email, Mr. Ferrisi will be notified.
And is there anything, like, as parents, because I know there's other parents here that are also waitlisted, is there anything on our end that we can do to help, other than we've emailed the state, we've done those kinds of things, so.
No, there's really not. It's just unfortunately how this grant kind of works. Like so July 2nd, they just put out the application for 24-25 for school districts that don't have a preschool program. So as you can see, like just getting an amendment. So like those districts may not find out until December or January. It's just the first year that's really, really clunky.
Right.
And then once you have it, it's fine. It's just this first year, and we were a really unique situation in that we had in one, we did it in another, and then we got 2 grants for 23-24, and then a grant for 24-25, and just the process that the state takes with grants, because they're so highly regulated, we're at their mercy. So, but I promise, as soon as we have any communication, we have everything ready to go. All right. Okay?
Thank you.
Kareem Khan, I'm 26 East Washington. I'm neighbor.
Just wait till the mic.
Okay. Kareem Khan, I'm 26 East Washington. Neighbors with last point. I also have a child in the same situation. If you do get the grant, is that going to cover up the backlog, or are there still students that will be on the waiting list?
No, so that will cover everybody that we have right now. So anybody that has applied for, like that's where we haven't had anybody else, like that'll cover everybody that right now wants a spot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We've earmarked for 74 kids, and there's 75
74 is what
seats.
the funding is for.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Gina Melnick from Highlands, and I appreciate your patience being so interactive with everybody's questions. I'm going to try to do my best to ask my 4 questions and sit down. Here's question number 1. On the agenda, item Roman numeral 17, XVII. There seems to be a huge discrepancy in the bills and claims for June 30th of 2024 between Highlands and Atlantic Highlands. And so the bills and claims for Highlands, which is just the elementary school, is like $394,000. And then the bills and claims for Atlantic Highlands is $161,000. So I'm just curious how a school district with twice as many students has half the bills and claims for the month of June. Question number 2. On same item, I think, item Q, it says that there's a consultant who's being hired to, pardon me, these look like reading glasses. They're like reading glasses. There's a consultant who's going to facilitate in the, just basically like settling stuff up for Highlands Elementary, going into the tri-district regionalization, which is awesome. I'm curious, is the same thing happening at Atlantic Highlands? Are we paying somebody, who's not the business administrator of the tri-district to do that? Question number, maybe I just have 3 questions. And then question number 3, this is really a question for the board, because I know that it's you guys who read the policies and you guys discuss in committee meetings the policies. In light of the horrible tragedy that just unfolded this past weekend, I'd love to hear what the members of the transitional board think of policy, I think it's 8467, firearms, weapons, revised? Thank you.
The bills and claims are the final list from that month, so it depends how they paid their bills in Highlands. We had another bills list that's approved before that. There's 2 bills lists that happened in June, and this year it was to close out everything against their accounts, but we always have 2 in June. So I don't know why his was more than, maybe his first one was less.
So you're not really sure?
About his, no. About Highlands, no, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
There is no consultant for Atlantic Highlands because I am the VA there, and I'll be closing that down, and the staff that works for me will be closing.
Are you going to be paid a final audit at a cost of 150 hours, $50 an hour, not to exceed $15,000?
Sorry, is that another question? Is that just a follow-up? I'm not looking here.
I can go back to
Also, it should be
my... I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
I'm sorry, I know everybody can't hear, I'm sorry. So we were talking about item Q, where Highlands Elementary School is paying a consultant $15,000 to essentially settle up the books. And so I was just curious if the Atlantic Highlands Elementary School will be doing the same. And I think what Ms. Sherlock said is no. And then my follow-up is, are you being paid $150 an hour not to exceed $15,000 to settle up the books? Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments?
I'm sorry, I had a third question. Wait, no, you didn't respond to my third question.
Yeah, Ms. Bellman, that's not the way it works. Yeah, once you're done with your comments and you sit down, this is the back and forth, so
No, you didn't answer my third question.
we'll do our best to answer the questions.
Okay,
Or
I'll-
it's not public question, it's public comment, so the board's gonna,
Okay, I'd like to make a comment. I think that in light of the attempted assassination of our former president,
Does this have to do with the agenda item? The
It
assassination
is.
of our former president? We heard the question, I don't think there's any.
it's agenda item
I think we heard this
16.
question. I don't know if anyone on the board has comments related to that. Does anyone have an answer? I personally don't have any. Second.
I'll just repeat in case anybody's confused. This board is being asked to determine policy. I'm making a comment, I'm not asking a question. I'm allowed to make a comment. I'm going to make a comment. My name is Regina Melnick. I live in C5 Hillside Court, and I would like to make a comment on an agenda item.
Ms. Melman, you made your comment, you can hold up the paper all you want. This is your second or third time back and forth to the microphone. Thank you.
I'd like to make another comment.
No, but Ms.
Every
Melman-
member of this board who lets
Ms.
this attorney
Okay.
that you are
Ms.
paying
Ms. Melnick.
$190 an
Ms.
hour
Melnick.
to speak to members of this community like this,
Okay.
nobody here is going to tell this man that the way he's speaking to me is inappropriate?
Ms. Melnick, your time is up. Thank you for your comment.
Because nobody here spoke longer than me. Peace out, y'all. Have a great night. Have a great night. I will see you all November 5th.
They'll see you at the penthouse at the New Jersey School Boards Association, where there's so much fucking white claw, you could pay their whole CEO's bonus. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you all haven't gotten the invitation to the penthouse party.
Are there any other comments on the agenda items? I think we're good on the agenda items. So, thank you, everyone. Okay, so we have a motion to go to executive session. Is there a motion? Going to close executive session at 7:45 p.m. for approximately 30 minutes. So action will be taken after this session. If people want to stay, the next one is where there will be no action. So we'll try to be quick. We're going to leave this room. You guys can stay here. Roll call.
Ms. Campbell? Yes. Ms. Dowd? Yes. Ms. Jacobs? Ms. Campbell? Ms. Lott?
No, it's okay. No worries. I thought it was, we needed to be, like, following.
Yes. executive session meeting minutes from 6/12/24. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Campbell? Yes. Mr. Dowd?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs? Yes. Ms. Cainwells?
Yes.
Ms. Knox?
Yes.
Ms. Messina?
Yes.
Ms. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Wingirder?
Yes. Consent agenda. So we have a motion to approve the following items under the recommendation of the superintendent. Motion. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Campbell? Yes. Mr. Dowd?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs?
Yes.
Ms. Cainwells?
Yes.
Ms. Knox?
Yes.
Ms. Messina?
Yes.
Ms. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Wingirder?
Yes.
Okay, so now it's the additional motions.
So we have two new motions.
Three.
Three new motions. All right. The business administrator's consent agenda to approve the following motions at the recommendation of the superintendent. Whereas students numbers 300000740 and 21000426, a Highlands resident has been attending Atlantic Highlands Elementary School on a tuition basis in accordance with prior approval of the Atlantic Highlands Board of Education. And whereas, effective July 1st, 2024, the Highlands and Atlantic Highlands Elementary School Districts have been dissolved and merged into the Henry Hudson Pre-K-12 Regional School District. And whereas the students' families wishes the students to complete the elementary grades in the Atlantic Highlands Elementary School as originally intended, and whereas the Henry Hudson Regional School District is not able to charge tuition in view of the pre-K-12 regionalization, but does not wish to disrupt the original plan to have the student complete the elementary grades at the Atlantic Highlands Elementary School, and whereas the circumstances were beyond the control of the family. Now, therefore, given the special circumstances and under the recommendation of the superintendent, the board approves the continuation of the student's attendance at Atlantic Highlands Elementary School without tuition with the provision that this is a one-time only accommodation and shall not be precedential. Then T, to the memorandum of agreement between the HHRSD BOE and the HHRA dated June 24, 2024, together with the attached appendices and salary guidance. Superintendent's consent agenda for personnel to approve the recommendation of the superintendent. Approval of Kristen Casais, part-time secretary on an as-needed basis at a rate of $50 per hour to complete end-of-year business office closeout tasks for Highlands Elementary School, not to exceed 50 hours at a total of $2,500. Roll call.
Need a motion?
Motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Campbell? Mr. Dowd?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs?
Yes.
Ms. Cainwells?
Yes.
Ms. Knox?
Yes.
Ms. Messina?
Yes to S and AA, but I am recused from voting on T.
No, you can vote on
She
it.
can't.
You can't sit on it. She can
Oh,
vote.
you can vote on one. You can vote on the fund, you just can't be part of the conversations.
You can vote on it, sure.
But if
You can vote
I
on
can
it.
abstain.
Yes,
you can.
Yes, I abstain on T.
Ms. Stock?
Yes.
Mr. Wingirder?
Yes. Public comment. Time will be allocated for public comment at this meeting after being recognized by the presiding officer. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes to address the board. Please state your name and address for the record. This is public comment, so anything at all.
Hi, Diane Chabot, 6 Cooper Ave. Can you hear me? Okay. I wrote a little thing. Okay. So I have questions regarding the Gifted and Talented program that we're aware had to be changed in 2019 due to state laws changing. Since then, many parents have brought up concerns about the replacement, communicating that Accelerate is nice, but it is not challenging the kids who qualify. Neighboring towns such as Rumson and Fairhaven are pulling out grade 3 through 6 students through a program called JET 4 times a week as opposed to our 1 time a week. This is giving children who can handle more rigorous instruction the opportunity to learn at a pace that's more appropriate for them. This program also differentiates between qualifying for math or English separately, so you don't have to qualify for both. By giving this opportunity is more frequent, it also leaves smaller groups multiple times a week for differentiated instruction or extra help and less pressure for the classroom teacher. Furthermore, many neighboring towns are giving packets for fast finishers so that when they're done with whatever their classroom is working on, they can continue working on their packets. We hear there's coaches assisting teachers in differentiated instruction, but unclear of the tangible effects on the students. We're told the students cannot receive extra work. So I was just wondering about that.
So the GMT program is not a replacement for the Challenge program. The Challenge program was deemed inappropriate by the law that was passed in 2019-2020. The Challenge program was strictly an academic tracking program. It did not follow any of the guidelines required by gifted and talented. So you had to revamp your curriculum. There is very specific guidelines that you have to follow. So the tracking of students for just ELA and math, which is only what the Challenge program was for ELA and math, was students were tracked. That was deemed inappropriate years ago, which is why all of the laws had changed. So that's where our GMT program came from, which was done in consultation. We actually went and visited Rumson and Fairhaven to look at their programs. And we're in the infancy. They had had theirs for a really long time because they did not have tracking programs like what that was had in Atlantic Highlands. We've had instructional coaches now for only 1 year. So they were just implemented last year. Differentiated instruction is not new. It is an expectation for all teachers across the state of New Jersey to be able to differentiate within that content area. So that is something that we are working with our teachers on. We also have not had new math or ELA curriculum in over 10 years in these districts. So this year, we had a literacy committee for K-5 that identified new ELA curriculum that would align with the new state standards for ELA that allow our teachers to differentiate a little bit more. We have increased in the upcoming year, even through the teacher's contract that we just approved, an increase in time for professional development with our teachers, which was not necessarily prioritized within the schedule. We've revamped the master schedules last year and then this year to provide more ELA and math minutes, and also for a 45-minute dedicated block for kids to either get enrichment in areas that they needed or intervention. So I'm not really sure I don't know who told you that kids can't get extra, because they certainly can get extra. If we actually have our GMT teachers in both buildings pushing into those classrooms to work with our teachers. We revised all of our curriculum to have very specific accommodations, not just for our special needs students, but also for our accelerated students. They didn't exist in any prior curriculum iterations. There actually was never a challenge curriculum ever written. So we've put all of those things in place. It's difficult to tangibly track one program versus the other because they're not the same program. The bench, and as I said, it's kind of in its infancy. So every year we keep adding to it in terms of identification, what they should be doing. We actually just had a conversation about it today with the administrators about putting our kids in academic competitions so that there's more impact. We have some limitations in terms of teachers' schedules and the amount of teachers that we had. For the first time in the last 2 years, we had a dedicated GMT teacher to each building. We've never had that before. So they are kind of getting their feet wet as well within this program. So I definitely appreciate the feedback. In terms of kids getting packets or additional work, I don't know specifically because I'm not in that classroom, but that 45-minute block, they should be getting, if they're an accelerated student or they're excelling in that area, they should be getting that, including in their differentiation communication within the classroom. If that's not happening, that's something that first needs to be discussed with their teacher. Even in G&T, if you feel that your child is not being challenged, the first line of communication is with the teacher. If you're not satisfied with that, then the next is your building principal so that they can look at things on that level, and then obviously it would come to me. I don't administer the buildings on a daily basis, that's what the principals do. So I can't say what's happening in one specific classroom every single day, like what's being given, but that's definitely a great conversation to have with the teacher and then with the building principal. But there's never been any kind of communication that children shouldn't get more, because we've built in those pieces to get more. As like I said, we just increased ELA minutes, we just increased math minutes. We're gonna have a larger focus, there's never been a focus on writing in these districts. So we increased our ELA minutes, not only in the elementary schools, but here in the middle school and high school, to increase writing minutes. These new standards coming in, they are much more rigorous, so they are implemented for this upcoming school year. We're also piloting a brand new math program. The math and the ELA programs that have been in this district for many, many years are very outdated. They don't have a lot of resources, they're not necessarily modernized, and they didn't really, quite frankly, help the teachers differentiate. There wasn't a lot of resources, they needed more resources. So these committees have really done a great job, but it takes a little time because those things, for whatever reason, COVID being one of them, was a little neglected. And so we're making those changes as we can. We've been really, it's been helpful to have some of the grant money to make those one-time purchases of materials. We've also, in the upcoming budget, invested a lot more now with our, some of our monies that we received in additional resources for the G&T classrooms and then additional resources for our teachers. And now having the instructional coaches for a year, we actually all just met this afternoon. They'll have more prescriptive experiences with the teachers. In the first year, we just wanted them to kind of build a rapport, get a lay of the land. Now we've identified areas where they need to more specifically support. So we've built the master schedule so that we can have continuous professional development. We have to redo the district calendar because of the new contract. There's some provisions for the calendar, and we've built in additional professional development days for our teachers throughout that year. We've increased their PD. So, so I can't speak again to that, like not getting extra, because that's not anything that I have ever said, like kids can't get extra. I don't know what that means.
Well, I know that a few years ago they used to separate the kids, like more for if you were in this level of math or this level of math, you would like go here or go there, and that seemed to be reflecting in our numbers that our school ratings were much better when we did that. So I think it just seems like it's like a common opinion that because we used to do that, it reflected better in our kids' grades
So I can't speak to your grades. Previously, we ran all of the data because I got a lot of questions when I came here about a program that I didn't dissolve, but somehow.
Is that being considered to set?
So we do not track students in elementary school. We track, no, that is tracking. When you remove, it's called a self-contained class, you are tracking. So we also don't have the staffing to do that because we have a lot of inequities in teacher schedules, and it's not appropriate. You do that now in middle school, so we track, then kids will take like an advanced ELA class, or they'll take an advanced, they'll be pre-algebra, algebra 1, and they have like an advanced math track in terms of that. But in terms of tracking in elementary school to pull kids for instruction on that level, it's not appropriate. It's why the challenge program went away, because that's actually not considered gifted and talented in the state of New Jersey.
I've heard a lot from different parents who are upset that when their students were finished early, there was nothing for them to do. My own daughter said, if you finish early, they tell you to check your work. So I don't think that was actually happening in the past where they were giving them extra.
That's a teacher issue. You'd have to discuss that with the teacher or the building principal, because that's not something that we've said don't give them more work if they're finished early. I can't speak to specific situations, but I would address that with your teacher, your child's teacher first, but I would definitely address it with your teacher's principal. Or your student principal, not your teacher's principal.
Oh, I just gets taller? No, it doesn't get taller. I'll just hold it. Hi, I'm Renee Dorsky. I'm over at 64th Avenue. I haven't been to a school board meeting in a while. I did serve on your board for 3 years, so I know this is not easy on either end. When I was on the board, this was 7 years ago, was my last year. I did do 3 full years. I did do a big push on our ratings of our school. I felt like it was really important. And when I first started on the board, it wasn't. They didn't really see it the same. But we did a lot of work on, the greater schools. I know when you have the school report come out, even for me, it's pretty confusing. A lot of it doesn't even make sense. You're reading testing scores, this, that. But as far as with the greater schools, like let's say something as simple as Zillow. I'm looking for a house, where do I want to live? I'm looking at the surrounding schools. Greater schools was always kind of like a way for people, parents, people who are interested in our school and our area to look and just get a general sense of how our schools are performing. Some of it, so sometimes it's not always updated, but I did look recently, and it was updated in June of this year. It's been a long time since I checked in on these type of things. Greater schools does also, it can take into consideration the progress from year to year, testing scores, college readiness, attendance, advanced courses, and those type of things, and discipline, right? So, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Our ratings have dropped substantially. You got Henry Hudson down to a 4. When I was on the board, we got it up to a 6. Atlantic Highlands Elementary was at a 9 when I was on the board. It's now dropped down to a 6. I'm not sure. Highlands currently is a 4 also. So I looked up Atlantic Highlands. The big drop was in how they're progressing from year to year. So I understand you've been doing, you as a superintendent, you're talking about the curriculum and how you guys are making all these advancements and looking at this and sitting down and all these great, like you're selling it really great, but ultimately, as of right now, June, our ratings are way down. And it is concerning. I have one student who is a 6th grader, I have another student entering a 9th grade, and I was challenged with where am I going to put my daughter for high school. Most people, you have a massive problem with student retention staying at the high school. It seemed to be like the stigma for many years since we got here, or when everyone was always telling me, yeah, the elementary school's great, but the high school, oh, maybe they'll work it out by then. It seems to be not working out. I don't know. Your ratings are dropping. I understand COVID was a big problem. We had to get our kids, back and kind of, but it's been years now. So I don't know if you can speak to this about our ratings dropping. Looks like at Henry Hudson, as far as progress from year to year, from last year to this year, it's down to a 2. This is a 1 through 10, so I don't know. You can help us understand as a community.
So I don't control the grade schools. It's not metrics that we work within. I don't know where they pull their data
They
from.
pull it from the state scores as far as scoring,
Right.
and it is a major thing if you're looking for a home or anything like
No,
that.
I know what grade schools is, but
Yeah.
so a lot of that data are years behind. A lot of the
Well,
data.
it was updated June 10th.
They might have. So I listened to you. I'm just going to explain, right? So I've been here for 3 years. I came here after a global pandemic where we didn't have any testing data at all. People talk a lot about the data in Atlantic Highlands in particular. The data, and I did data presentations on this at previous board meetings. We have been stagnant. So as a school, since I think the 2014-2015 school year, we've been hovering around 70% proficiency in ELA and about 50% proficiency in mathematics. It's the same thing, and then we didn't have almost 3 years of testing data. When we came back, after a global pandemic, there's significant learning gaps, and there's all of these pieces. So it's not like we put these things in place and then overnight everything works. Here at Henry Hudson, it's taken us a while, the last couple of years, but we have increased our AP classes, but that takes time. So you have to put that into a master schedule, you have to write curriculum, you have to have an idea for that. We've improved our middle school programming, which was not very good, and we continue to work on our middle school programming. We're working on it. We're very well aware of like what our test scores are. Coming into this also in 2019, there was a special education audit. We had a very skewed and overinflated population of special education. There was an over-identification of it. So we are working through some of those issues with the new director of special services to make sure that kids are appropriately classified, and if they're appropriately classified, they're getting the services that they need. We have also had a huge explosion of ESL population. So those are students that are coming in with English as a second language or not speaking English at all. Since I've gotten here, when I came in 21, 22, I think it was my first year, we had 3 ESL students identified at Atlantic Highlands Elementary School. They didn't even require a program. We are now up to 17 students, and that doesn't even include our preschool students that are coming in. And so we've had to divert some services there with very little funding. So, and they get scored a certain way as well. So we are aware of where we are from a proficiency standpoint. I also am really proud that for the last 2 years we've had a 100% graduation rate up here at Henry Hudson. We have,
for sure.
So it's not going to happen overnight. We're astutely aware. We talk about it as an
I
administrative team.
understand, and I'm always hearing, like, you know, I know school, I understand it costs so much, but I'm also gonna say, like, our taxes are really high. I have 2 businesses in town, our taxes are super high, even in Highlands, your houses are selling for insane amounts of money. Atlantic Highlands, it's just tax, so, I mean, for a population with so much money going into your taxes, and with a population, your school is so small, there's always these issues. The student body, I mean, Atlantic Highlands Elementary, even like Henry Hudson, I graduated from a school where just our senior class was almost 400 kids. You're talking about like Henry Hudson where it's only, what, 300, however many kids are in there. And they're dropping, like the 9th grade, so many of those kids are leaving. And I understand, like, and it seems like, oh, well, that's always how it's been. That's not how it should be. So I'm not sure, like, what it is. I get it, a lot of your teachers, you guys are people who grew up here, from here, always from here, but like, you're having people move in, and people are always leaving for your high school. I know you're doing, I'll say, it's just, maybe with, as far as with, I always push it, with the greater schools, you understand, like, well, I don't know where their data comes from, it's not, this is what people look at. Like, they're looking at, I came from New York, I was looking at all of that. It is measured. It's a measure for the people to see. So, I don't know. I know when I was on the board, you have to just input that information, and then maybe then people, when they're looking, like, oh, this school is great, and they won't come here and ask all these questions. It might just be like a situation of where you need to update your information and show them all the great things that you're doing. That's all. I don't have a perspective. Show them that. Where there you go.
Thanks, Renee.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good evening. My name is Michael Ann Maloney. I'm at 7 Columbia Ave in Atlantic Highlands. My question is related to the Arts and Drama program at Atlantic Highlands. I believe that these programs are facilitated via a stipend for a faculty. So my questions are, if no teacher elects to receive the stipend and lead the 5th grade play and chorus, the Young Voices concert that we just went to as well, and then the arts programs as well, will the school coordinate to ensure that these offerings are happening? And if so, how will the stipend be leveraged in this scenario?
So at all of our schools, all of the extracurricular programs that we have and that we've always had and that we will always continue to have are paid through stipends. Your athletic coaches, your chorus and band for the extracurricular. Not what they teach during the school day, but what they do extracurricularly. They get a salary for their teaching schedule, and then all of that extracurricular stuff that they do on top of that is paid through a stipend. And so every year, those stipends are sent out to the staff. Staff apply for those stipends. Most of them come back every single year, so it's not really hard to pick the person that does the stipend. So you put the stipend out there, people apply for the stipend, you pick the person to do the stipend, and then the program grows. If nobody applies for the stipend, we then post that stipend outside of the school district, or, so in my school district where my daughter went to school, K-8, we didn't have somebody that did their, no teacher ever took their stipend. So they hired somebody who does theater on the outside to come in and do the play. So we will always have chorus, we will always have, we are running these programs, and we will, if none of our staff members want to take the stipend, which is, we've never had that issue, but that's how it's funded. Oh wait, it's extracurricular. Then we would go out and we'd advertise. So we, up here, I can only give an example of, we have coaches that we couldn't find a coach for that sport. So then we advertise it publicly, and then we get people that might not be teachers here, but they then take that stipend and then they coach our basketball team or something like that. So it would be the same thing. The difference now this year, as opposed to in years past, is that we have 3 schools that all could apply for those stipends, right? Whereas before, with the individual contracts, it was just for those individual schools. So these stipends will go out annually, like they do every year, to our teaching staff, and then they would have to opt to, I can't force anybody to do it, nor would I want to force somebody to do it, but they would then apply for it. But we have no intentions of ever changing anything. We would still have all of our plays. We have we have a musical at Highlands, we have a musical at Atlantic Highlands, we have 2 different people that do those stipends. We have chorus and band at Highlands, we have chorus and band at Atlantic Highlands, we have 2 different people that do those stipends, so we've never had an issue with it. They're definitely not going away.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up is because I do feel like the arts program, and if I can echo what Renee was saying earlier, the arts program, the grade school program, all of these things actually brought us to Atlantic Highlands. And I think it's something that really makes the community, support the school. You see these nights, everybody goes to these things. With the 80-20 split of the music teachers and the arts teachers, I'm concerned and worried that the things that really make Atlantic Highlands unique may be sacrificed in some way just because the teachers don't have as much time to put in thinking these, all of the things that go through.
I'm not sure what you're referring to in the 80-20 split. I can't speak about personnel, so I can't talk about a specific staff member. But you cannot do your stipended work during the school day because you're being paid to have a full teaching schedule. We've had some issues. I've been very public about it since I got here in terms of equity of a teacher's schedule. So if I'm a teacher and my contract says I work for 7 hours a day, within that 7 hours I get a prep and I get a lunch, that's your contractual student, that's your time that you are now providing accountable instruction for teachers. So we have teachers that work bell to bell, they get a 45-minute prep, they get a 45-minute lunch, there is no other downtime. And any other work that they do for a stipend has to be done afterwards. That's how fiscally responsibly we have to do that. Somebody just brought up taxes, right? So we fill their teaching schedules. Anything that they do for their stipends has to be done outside of that contractual time. you're not allowed, like you can't, they can't take money, it's called double dipping. They can't take money for a stipend and get paid to teach a full teaching schedule and not be teaching that full teaching schedule. It's why there are stipends. So there shouldn't be any issue because this is always a stipended position and we are filling all of our teachers' teaching schedules.
That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate you
Yep.
saying that. One last question. Is there a deadline that a teacher would have to accept the stipend?
So the stipends, we'll send them all out now that the contract is done. I mean, that's like a little bit of a delay. We usually send them out at the end of the school year for the upcoming school year, but just because we did a whole restructure, obviously with the teacher's contract that we just approved tonight, so, and they still have to approve it, so the board has done their part of it. We will send out now all of the stipends. We do it every year. Over the summer, we send out the stipends for the upcoming school year so that they're in place by the time that activity or that whatever need is. We have stipends for all kinds of things, like breakfast monitors, all of those things. So we'll do that now for the August meeting, and we will hopefully appoint all of our stipends for the district. Like, so you saw tonight on the agenda, like we had our fall coaches. That's like a timing issue up here because fall sports actually start over the summer, so we had to approve them. But then all of our 24, 25 stipends will be sent out, and then they'll apply, and then we see what happens. I mean, I don't know what the process will yield until people apply, but and then we usually appoint them at the August meeting. Or whenever, right, but like before, like you would need them to start the program that they're having a stipend for.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kids on different levels if we are no longer pulling out for the challenge program. I know this was before your time, if you've mentioned that many, many times. But you did implement the new program, am I correct?
So that's different than differentiated.
I know.
Yeah.
But
yes, we had
the
to.
new gifted and talented program was something you implemented?
Because we had to, and
correct. But you did implement that, right? So in Rumson, they do still pull kids out for gifted and talented, so I'm not sure why they're allowed to, but we're not.
We do pull kids out for gifted and talented. They're just not tracked like the challenge program.
So they're pulled out for 45 minutes a week, am I correct on that also?
It depends on the building schedule and the amount of students that we have to service. So we look at the kids that we have to service and what we have for our teachers' schedules.
Okay.
Because we also, within this mandate, we have to provide for kindergarten, which you have to identify early for kindergarten, which is usually a push-in model, some pull-out. So we have a blend of both push-in and pull-out.
Okay. So for the last 2 years, my son has needed extra work because he's doing very well in math and he's been unable to he's not getting the education he needs in math. And for the last 2 years, we've asked his teachers to give him additional resources, additional work. In second grade, they gave him extra IXL, which from what I understand, they didn't actually even do IXL in the classroom, so that was kind of a useless add-in. But for third grade, his last year at the school, because unfortunately we pulled him to go to a different school next year, he still wasn't able to get any sort of additional math. And this is a wonderful teacher he had, who has been teaching for many years, but she was unable to give him anything extra because there were so many kids in the class that needed her help with the current curriculum. So what measures are you putting in place, and when will these measures be put in for kids like that to get additional work within the classroom for more than 45 minutes a week?
So we just increased our math minutes for all grade levels so that they have more than 45 minutes to help with small group and differentiated instruction. So when I got here, there wasn't any. What's that?
That's for the upcoming school year?
For the upcoming school year, we've increased math minutes even more than we had before.
So how many math minutes will they be getting?
So I don't have that in front of me, but you can certainly talk to your building principal. We're in the process of doing our master schedules. Again, we just negotiated contracts, so all the master schedules have to be created. But we have increased our math minutes, and we are trying to help our teachers with differentiated instruction. I can't speak, you have to go to your building principal.
We've done that. This is why we pulled our child, because he's no longer getting the education he needs. So we had to pull him and put him in a different school, which is unfortunate. But I still have 2 kids at Atlantic Highlands, and I would like to keep them there. But if there's no actual program put in place to help these teachers,
So there are, we just increased professional development. We are actually in the process of piloting a brand new math program. We are implementing a new ELA program because the program that we had was not meeting their needs after 10 years of having this program. And so the teachers they're the ones that have found this program. It has a lot of different resources. It's very much updated. IXL is a program to provide either enrichment or intervention. So it's paced at a student's pace. I can't speak to how your teacher is implementing it. It is not a program that teaches math. It is for additional or extra practice at either an accelerated level or a lower level. In terms of differentiated instruction, I just talked about the additional professional development, the instructional coaches, increasing those minutes. We are really focusing on small group instruction. We are focused on data-driven instruction so teachers understand how to group students. But these things in terms of professional development have not really been happening here, and so now we have the ability to do that. We had to make some contractual changes, which we did, which allows us to have more professional development. We're building in periods of the day, which is a secondary period, where teachers can meet regularly with the instructional coaches, and it doesn't take away from their instructional time. It's like a second, not a prep, but a second period where they don't have obligations, and then they can go and they can meet with the instructional coaches. They'll be meeting with their principals more. So we are doing a lot of things. It just is, it's not ever going to be the challenge program.
I understand that it's not going to be the challenge program. You made that pretty clear. But you still have, let's say, instead of the 45 minutes for that period, it's now 60 minutes. But if you still have the same number of students within the classroom, how is the teacher expected to teach so many students at so many different levels when they used to be pulled out and taught by a separate teacher?
Right. And we can talk about this offline. That's differentiated instruction. It's the expectation of teachers. I understand your viewpoint, but that is the expectation of teachers, and levels change all the time, even within a gifted or a special education or a general education class. You have varying levels depending on the topic. So we are putting a lot of supports in for our teachers because this is a practice that should have been happening for years and wasn't. So we're putting a lot of supports in for our teachers to be able to differentiate. We're getting more curriculum resources that will help with that they have not had in 10 years. And our class sizes, comparatively to other school districts, are still relatively small. So there's a 45-minute intervention period where that group is very, very small, and then there's their regular classroom where also kids are pulled out, maybe they're for special education or whatever that might be. So our class sizes are relatively small, but our teachers need support in this area, and we have a lot of things in place to do that. But I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline about your specific child, just not, I can't speak to specifics for your child here.
Rachel?
Sorry, I'm up there. I apologize, I just wanted to know if,
State your name and address.
Oh, so sorry, Rachel Stockton, 31 Grand Tour. For the teachers in the buildings, I guess you already approved that. Would we be able to just say what building and what grade level?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Let me get to that page.
Page 10.
Okay, so full-time ASI teacher is here at Henry Hudson.
Okay.
The full-time elementary teacher, that one is at Atlantic Highlands.
Okay.
The full-time teacher of English is here at Henry Hudson. The preschool instructional coach is part of the PEA grant, so that's going to be split between Atlantic Highlands and Highlands. The two full-time elementary teachers are both at Highlands, and then the reading specialist is district-wide.
Okay, great.
Did I get everybody? Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll make it quick.
Yeah.
I'm Kellyanne Arnella. I live at 42 Keystone Drive. This is my first Board of Ed meeting, and it's been very interesting. A really great experience. I would encourage a lot of my counterparts to come. You learn a lot. But I was just trying to get a little, I don't know, information. But we are like 3 different districts, obviously coming into one. And I think there's a lot of, I don't even want to say misinformation, but I think like a lot of the stuff, a lot of the changes that are occurring and like the hard work that you guys are putting into this, I think that there's a lot of discussions happening like on the ground, like amongst parents and things like that. And I'm not sure, I don't know if it's like fair to all the work that you're putting in, but also for us, like I work in neurorehabilitation. So pretty much everyone I work with has no clue what I'm talking about all day because my language is completely different than their language, right? And so looking through a little bit of the minutes, like I don't understand half this stuff. And I think that especially like when there's a merge, I think it's kind of helpful to have, I don't know, a little bit of transparent information on like the stuff that is happening behind the scenes and the stuff that you're working on that might be able to quiet or kind of reinforce or calm down some of the people that are out here on this end. It's just a thought. If there's like an update that could go out that's more in like, this is like what you just explained about like the math minutes and the ELA and boosting things like that. If there's something that could, like, had I known that, I would be like thrilled, you know?
Yeah, so to start the school year, we usually send out something with any changes that are happening. So in Atlantic Highlands, Mr. Ferrarisi will send that out. In Highlands, Dr. Jacoto will send that out, and up here, Henry Hudson will.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify something really quickly.
Yeah.
These 3 districts have had shared curriculum and instruction since 2006. So regionalization has nothing to do with what anybody is talking about because since 2006, the 3 boards of education that has existed for all of those years decided at that point that so our curriculum is written exactly the same, our expectations should be the same. There was along the way some things that were not consistent, right? And that's part of what happens when you have 3 boards of education, 3 different principals. You had a superintendent, but there was a lot of changeover, things like that. So our curriculum, our programming are the same, and then we provide the resources on individual students' needs. So for years, Highlands may have, so like Atlantic Highlands has a preschool disabled class that they've had for years, a self-contained preschool disabled class. Highlands has never had a preschool disabled class. So Highlands has some self-contained special education. Highlands for years had ESL instruction because there was a need there. Atlantic Highlands didn't until we had an explosion of ESL students. So that's not really regionalization, it's changing with kind of education and what we have to do in terms of mandates. So these things with like last year we increased math minutes. We announced it at board meetings, Mr. Ferrarisi sent things out. I have never turned away a parent that wants to talk about education because I can talk about it all day long. So I know Mr. Ferrarisi is happy to meet with parents. We have a director of curriculum instruction that just came on board. We have a new director of special services. We are very accessible. We're here. I mean, prior to this year, I was out 4 nights a week at meetings, so anybody could come to those meetings. And then when we do these updates, we do data presentations at board meetings. We have done state of the district presentations for the last couple of years where we've talked about all of the things and the things that we're putting in place. We continue to add to that every single year. Up here when we have orientation meetings, back to school nights, things like that, we communicate any changes that we have, and we'll do that once things are finalized. This year there's been a lot of change because of everything coming together, but in years past there has been communication about those things, about those minutes changing. the way people feel about them. Everybody has a different opinion. I know like at one point when we did start to increase ELA minutes, we did start to increase math minutes, you do have to pull back on some other things because the priority is usually your core academic subjects. There was a lot of consternation about that, but at the end of the day, we have to prioritize the needs of our students that we have. That changes every single year based on our specialized populations. We talked about G&T, kids that qualify for G&T. That changes every year. Special education, the number of students we have to service change every year. ESL, this year is a whole new animal because we're one district. We have to provide 2 periods of ESL instruction instead of 1 period of ESL instruction. That changes your master schedule and what you can accommodate in small districts. So we're changing and adapting every year while trying to put these improvements in place and do a lot of catch up on things that, because of a global pandemic for 3 years, because of changes in different positions, because of oversight, whatever that might be, needed to be tended to and they weren't tended to. So now we have that opportunity to do that. But I know this is not the answer that anybody wants. It takes time. It takes time for the teachers to make sure that they have the appropriate support. It takes time for the students to get used to those. It takes time. So we are working towards all of that. We definitely will try to communicate more. It helps now having like one forum to communicate because I think that things sometimes get lost of what is Highlands doing, what's Atlantic Highlands doing, what's happening here. You have all of this communication, 3 different board meetings. Now it's easier to streamline those things, so we definitely will continue to do that. But we definitely, as soon as we have updates, we do try to publicize them as best as we can.
Thank you.
And so, our website is tribedistrict.org.
Yeah.
It's probably like, I don't want to mess up whatever your background is, neurodiversity, like, it's not clear, right, when you were trying to
That's,
mix it
no,
up.
that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's like,
But we're here, right? Like,
Right.
I see you at softball, Diane, I see you at the bike shop, Dave, I see you at the gym. You know, I see everyone here at like 3 p.m. pick up school. Like, we can tell you on who to talk to and explain it, so it's not, so it's like, you know, regular neuro rather than something more simple.
yeah.
I think we're all available. We can tell you like where these things are, what sites to get them from. We're more than happy to like tell you who can explain it better than we can. Because there are directors of curriculum, principals, teachers that like, you know, it's not clear. Like, we can point you to those people if I can't help you directly. So like, don't hesitate. Everyone here should have my email. It's on the website. Everyone else's email. If you don't have my phone number, which I know everyone does. So I'm very excited that this many people came out to ask questions, regardless of what some of the questions were. Like, I think that engagement is very important. But a lot of the stuff, like we have showed the guys, we have showed the data presentations. If you're not able to look into Excel, like I love Excel. Like I can walk you through line by line what all this means at some point if you want to. So like very excited to do that. Some stuff gets lost, like you said, the time got them down, I didn't know, we flashed it out there, there's just a lot. So like use us as your resource to get you like the point of information, we're more than happy to do that. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Well, I think a lot of people,
Just turn it on.
So,
No.
now you can go.
I can.
Now talk loud.
I think some people voiced on Facebook or whatever social media stream they want to, and I think that if you have a particular question about your child or about what's going on, it's better to come to a board meeting and it's better to look on the website. Because there is a lot of misinformation, but a lot of it gets circled around away from us.
Of course,
And
that's if there's like, I don't know, like,
There's a lot of places to not
there's a
get
lot of
information,
places to
right?
get a lot of different information, right? And I think like I said, this was my first board meeting, and I can because you know there's rustling. So I want to be. I have 3 kids that are going to be going through the school district, right? So I gotta pay attention. I have to like know what's going on, right? I'm invested in it. So there's, you know, I think it's a new board technically, right? With everyone together, right? They're not. I know you're not new, but it's a new kind of thing. Like. I think, like, I don't know if you've ever been through a merge in a company, which I know it's not really like that, but it is, right? So it's like, a little, like, people are gonna be like, well, what is going on here? What's going, like, or, like you said, like, Highlands is, like, I didn't know that we were all under the same curriculum until, like, you know, and that's something that I think that's like, oh, okay, it's a little grounding for me to know that. And yes, like, Excel makes me wanna vomit. Like, you can talk me through all the scores and everything, that's great. But, like, I think sometimes even people don't even know the questions to ask. And, like I was saying, my background, but, like, a big part of it is, like, literally simplifying every single thing I do so that it's at the level that everybody can understand it, which I know is extra work. I get it. I do it all day long, and then have to write things up in my, like, jibber jabber, right? So I don't know what the solution is. I just think that I know that not everybody can also come to a board meeting, right? I might not be able to come to every single one, but I think it is helpful to, like, hear that and, like, have that sort of, I don't know, also makes it, like, kind of connected a little bit more, that it's not just like the board and the people, which I know you guys are all in community seeing me all the time, but that's all. But thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Erin Chapman, 57 Navasink Avenue. I just want to echo what Allison said. There's a lot of things on Facebook, and coming from somebody that's been to almost every single Atlantic Highlands Board of Education meeting since my daughter started school here, Dr. Beams has been more than transparent in her updates at every single board meeting. There's a lot of faces that I've never seen at a board meeting. I've been there pretty much every month as a member of the public. If you want information, go to the source. And Facebook isn't the source. She is more than happy to answer all of our questions. Just a comment.
Thanks, Erin. Any other comments? So now we are going into executive session again. There will be no action after this session. So motion, please. Second. Going to close executive session at 9:14 p.m. for approximately 45 minutes. Action will not be taken after this closed session.
Yeah.
We're going to adjourn right after, so.
Right, so you can stay if you want, but we're not going to be taking any action afterwards, so.
We just adjourn. When we come out, we adjourn.
That's the distinction, just to answer a prior
I
question.
don't want anybody to, like, have to, like, think they're sitting here and then there's, like, something they're gonna miss, except for adjournment.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
I need some water.
I just told him that I don't know if he wanted to stay.
No, John.